Hi, this is Zach D. Roberts with a special episode of the Visu.News podcast and the Around the Lens podcast. For those who are new to the pod, Around the Lens is a visual imaging show that I used to do regularly with David J. Murphy. Well, we're bringing it back. And we're also trying out a couple new things, expanding out beyond just visual journalism with more reviews and interviews from people outside of my usual personal field. One feature that we're working on is bringing you interviews like the one here with Times reporter photojournalist Andrew Dolph that focuses on getting the director's commentary of a photo story, basically the behind-the-scenes tale of how and why they got the shots. Andrew's paper is a daily paper based out of New Philadelphia, Ohio, which is on the map between Columbus, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh. I'm friends with Andrew, so I saw these images posted on his Twitter, at Andrew Dolph, a couple days ago, and I knew I had to talk to him about it. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Andrew Dolph. I'm here with Andrew Dolph for Around the Lens and Visu.News, and he just dropped a series of photos on the internet that I had to talk to him about, or talk to you about the title of the story, at least right now, is on Times Reporter, is Dover Council President says firing of 3 workers by mayor reeks of retaliation. But you followed him throughout the day, basically throughout a day, firing people. Can you just give like the most general sense of what the story is about?
So he's been mayor for the better part of 30 years, maybe just over that. I haven't looked up the actual date range, but he's been here for a while. And it's a long sordid tale, and it seems like there's a fair amount of corruption that is ongoing. A lot of accusations on the record that family members are basically running the show, i.e. his wife and potentially his son calling the shots from home or wherever. It seems pretty clear that he's not really doing his job per se, or really running the city for what it's worth. We got a tip yesterday basically telling us to go over to his office, which is about 5 minutes from where we sit, and find out what's going on. Yeah.
And so you ended up just following him along. I mean, this is the reason that I wanted to talk to you about it is because this is one of these, like, this is why local news media and actually having like staff, like photographers like around and available, and for local publications, because like Reuters is never gonna, like the national, like the AP is not going to cover a mayor like going from place to place. And you got some of these absolute, not only are they like excellent, actually shot, like actual good photos. They're not, it's not like a cell phone camera. It's not like, oh, we caught the cell phone video of him doing this. And it's like, but these are like actually like gorgeously lit shots of him walking around. This one that he's walking with a cane, very clearly just spotted you.
Yep.
Is like, that looks like
the stink eye.
Yeah, it looks like a noir thing. Like, oh, he just, oh shoot, the mark saw me. But so like, can you like go through and like talk about like what was it like following him around or like doing the chase?
Sure. I mean, so this is the nuts and bolts of community journalism. This is what it means to be a community journalist and kind of in a small town paper. The age-old jokes get thrown around about being bored to tears attending school board meetings, and you name a meeting, it's like, what are we doing here? Well, we have a pretty clear-cut case in point of why this kind of coverage is critically important. Like I said, we got that tip. We just got in our cars, drove over to the office, got out and headed over to the service director's office and walked in, and there's the mayor just standing there with a police officer, which is really kind of unusual. The two share the same building, but it's unusual to have essentially an armed guard following the mayor around, especially in a really small community. Oh, hi, what, how you doing? And so we just kind of felt out the situation. The reporter and I are kind of standing literally shoulder to shoulder because the hallway that goes down to the service director's office is about 15 feet long. And there's the service director's office, and you can see through this tiny little crack of a window, kind of what's going on. And directly behind us then is the exit. So we're just kind of stuck in this hallway, just kind of standing here waiting for things to happen. And we know that things are going to happen. It's a matter of when and where, because there's multiple buildings. And we see the service director come and go a couple of times. It was pretty clear that he was cleaning out his office because he had a series of empty banker boxes. You know, it's not quite
Classic.
Tax time, so it's pretty obvious the intent there. So he cleaned out his office and hit the road, and had some things to say, and it was sad, you know. Approaching this photographically, it's a matter of being sensitive. This isn't big city stuff where, you know, you're kind of taking the paparazzi approach. These are members of the community. They still have lives. They have to go on with the next day, the next week. You really feel for them. I mean, they get shit canned right before Christmas. And now I don't know if the three of them observe Christmas, but you know, it's the holidays. How unbelievably cruel. It's awful. So from a photographic perspective, you kind of have to just roll with it, you know. Make the pictures that you feel like are going to be meaningful. You wait for moments to happen. You are extremely situationally aware. Pretty much the same as when you're covering a protest or a riot or breaking news. You just keep your wits about you and try and make pictures that matter, you know? And so he fired the service director, locked up, and I made that picture from the exterior. And I don't know if this is indicative of the mayor's well-being, because he seems to be struggling physically. He broke his hip a little while back, and there may be some psychological things going on, as he has been accused by a number of people publicly and privately of having dementia. He had some difficulties locking up, and so that was one of the pictures with the one-way sign pointing one way. And you know, when you're going through this, you're looking for anything that you can to better tell the story. And it's just kind of like one of those aha moments, and you grab the 70-200 and you make these pictures from a distance. And so then he went on down the driveway and made the corner. I made a couple pictures of the Dover police officer walking with him, and storytelling, yes, but not really a meaningful picture. And I just kind of ended up shooting through the moment, kind of relying upon sports instinct here. You don't drop the camera as soon as the play is over. You look for a lot of other things that can potentially happen. And so, you know, there's this highly nuanced shade that he threw me. It really was kind of the stink eye, you know.
It does. All of them exude because like I've never really covered like very small, like Anchorage is like the smallest town, like city council, like level type stuff or city type stuff I've covered. Even though there's almost no journalists there, because there's only one paper and maybe one photographer or whatever. And so like, they're not really used to people being around, you know, around covering you in the way that like both of us are used to be like, you cover the way that you cover like a violent protest or like you get into it. But like all of these kind of have the like annoyance of, I know I can't do anything to you.
It's an unsettling it's an unsettling juxtaposition, because I've worked in large metros where this type of access just wouldn't have been possible.
Totally.
You know, the person that you're covering would have said something or given a bodyguard a glance or whatever, and you know, you would have been kicked out. But and so part of that is by virtue of working in a really small town. And the other part of it, and this is speculative because we don't have an official position of where the mayor is psychologically. He may be suffering from early onset dementia. Now, I've had a couple of family members go through this, and I've interacted with people with dementia, and the look in their eyes is very, very similar. And I've interacted with this mayor before yesterday's event. He doesn't seem with it. You interact with him, and he's just not all there, sadly. And so maybe some of that access was by virtue of that. Now, the third part is that, we're in a public space. Yes, we're indoors in the mayor's offices and the service director's office. The general public can come and go, same with the media. We have the right to be there. So it was this mix of fortunate opportunities that made these pictures possible.
But
and,
I mean, like,
just simply being there.
No, I mean, like, but you have the experience. I mean, like, even though there's like public places, especially like mayor off, like, city halls and that's like back offices that are technically public. There's a lot of times when it's just like, no, you're removed from the scene. Like I've been there before, where it's just like, okay, it's time for you to go. Like you
can follow up with the press release. We're going to feed you in a week's time, and by then it'll be totally
you've spent your time
issue.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always surprised when I'm allowed to when you're allowed to stay. You're like, I almost feel like you're not doing your job. But
then when it's all said and done, you're like, did this really happen? Like shell shock.
No, that's been almost my complete experience in like local and covering anything local, where it's just like, wait, there's access after like working in New York City and DC and wherever. You're like, oh my God, this is what it's actually like doing journalism. But that's what I mean. Like this is one of these, like, I again like had to talk to you about it, because it's like one of these stories that like this story could have dropped, and I don't, even though I'm always really interested in like local news stories of like minor level, like low level corruption or whatever. I mean, this is like big level corruption in a town, potentially. But without those photos, it's a story. And I never want to, like, especially as a journalist who writes as well, I don't want to downplay that, but I mean, like without the photos, and without that tip, it's maybe a press conference at some point in 3 months is the only visual, and it's the only thing that, as we know, grabs people. What's been have you gotten any either pushback or word from the local community on the story?
No pushback. There's the usual chatter to be expected online and social media, where people are just calling for him to resign, and lots of very, very choice words about him in general.
Yeah.
It's all over social media for sure. And as I mentioned before, we will be attending tomorrow night at 7 p.m. A special session. The city council president has called the council into session tomorrow at 7, and whether or not the mayor shows up remains to be seen. Of course, the importance of being there will be critical. I was set to take tomorrow off. I'm going to be here. We're going to move some hours around because it's just that important. I mean, I made that commitment to my family, and fortunately, I have a family that's really, really understanding when there's critically important things like that. Just go and do it. Is that going to be every day and every night of my waking life? No. That's a really important aspect of what we do as photographers, journalists, writers, what have you. It's a fine line to walk, and having the family that is super understanding and supportive, it's a blessing.
It's good.
Support at home and at work is critical.
Well, I mean, the pay is so great, so it's hard to say no to anyway. You're part of the US Times Reporter is part of the USA Today network, right? Like network.
We're a Gannett USA Today network paper.
So that's like actually one of the, like, as much as like media consolidation and that sort of thing is always like worrying, but like if a independent local paper picked this up, there's really not a fantastic chance that it would get seen on a larger level. So that's also, that's, I think at least we're like putting in like a good part of media consolidation. It's a great way that like you actually, this actually sees like a state level where, and people see the reason why, again, subscribe now, $1 for 6 months, save 98%.
Yeah. I will say that as a new father, I did take 6 weeks of paid paternal leave.
Mm-hmm.
That is amazing in this industry.
Yeah.
Virtually unheard of.
Not just in this industry, in this country, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm extremely thankful. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, so where, I guess you're covering the city council tomorrow, and then you don't know any idea where it goes from there, or? Yeah.
Nope. It's up in the air. He's still under investigation. There are 2 or 3, depending on how you can potentially merge the investigations going on. They all overlap.
Mm-hmm.
3 special prosecutors from the Ohio State Auditor's Office.
Wow.
Are looking into him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
yep.
Absolutely.
And the list of potential charges are more than a page. And again, a lot of this is open to interpretation and how a lot of those potential charges would get merged together. It's fluid, ongoing, and obviously it just astounds me that he knows he's being watched and investigated, yet things like this continue to occur. Like,
this is not something he had to do. Once you guys showed up,
right.
Like, to me, that's just something I always worry about. Sometimes you do a stakeout, but eventually you have to like show up and like actually have your seal. There's only so much you can shoot through a monster telephoto lens or something like that, especially once they go into buildings. And so you get yourself seen, and it's always the worry that, oh, well, he's not going to do this thing. Then he's going to go, oh, there's media right there documenting it. Like, then probably shouldn't do this right now, but yet he still did everything.
I had a nice conversation with another colleague that works at Kent State University in photo. Mm-hmm. Incidentally, he was a staffer here many moons ago, so he's familiar with the situation. And I said, gosh, it would be amazing to have like a dedicated team of 2 or 3 just on this story.
Yeah,
because that things are still going on. Yeah. So the trick is, as the sole staff photographer here and having just one writer currently, because the other one is off on her leave, finding that balance professionally. Like, I have sports, I have other obligations.
Yeah.
How do you make it all work? It's a good challenge.
Yeah.
We back in the day of being in J school, I think about people encouraging me going and working at a small town paper and really learning how to cut your teeth working in the industry. And this is it.
Yeah.
This is my 4th staff position, and they've all been at small papers, and it's the same thing every single time. The grind is real.
Yeah. That's something that it always bothers me with the, like, I mean, like, I'm happy that obviously anytime journalism gets a call out from like the general public and everything like that, but like you've had the last couple of years and you have whatever, because like I remember when I lived in Alaska, and like one of the reasons I went up there initially to do a documentary was to focus on the people that helped take down Sarah Palin, like beforehand. Mm-hmm. And like, just, I mean, this is like blogs, I mean, like in the kind of early days of blogs, or not even the early days, but like when before it was, new. And you have all these national publications that basically like went to the mudflats.net and copied and pasted these stories and then like put them on the thing, and they got, these national reporters get all this attention, and then which is great that the story gets out, but it's but like so often I know so much of my work is like an investigative thing. If it wasn't for like local reporters that are like either sitting at town halls or like the people that read and go to every Secretary of State's election council meetings or whatever that document it, I wouldn't have half the stuff. And so it's very important. And I is glad that the Times reporter actually gives you the time to do it and work on these stories, because it would be easier just to be like, oh, okay, just go out and shoot a couple nice photos and then go cover sports. Yep. Because that's where we know that we know where a lot of the clicks come from. And so that's good. Where can people find your other than timesreporter.com? Where can people find your work or find you?
The usual, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm there. Just search for me. All the handles, unfortunately, are different. So,
yeah. Well, thanks again, Andrew. We'll talk soon.
My distinct pleasure. Thanks.
Thanks again.